Yeah, here we are again, folks. Brother Peter with tidbits from the Word. The word we're going to be using today is maximum. In a study that I'm doing, it's studying the maximums of this world. And what is the maximum? That's the high point. That's like the L in the alphabet, in the alphabet that does all the lines and stuff. And isn't it wicked how sometimes your mind goes blank? And Roman numerals. And so here we are in Proverbs. It's a collection of moral and religious maximums. It's the top end of the moral thing and the top end of the immoral thing. So it tells us the maximum of each one. It contains instruction concerning right living. And when we're studying the Proverbs, like Proverb 1, wherewith will a man find the right way? By following the Lord and the instruction to the Lord. So a max, M-A-X with an apostrophe, I-M. Max, I-M. If we're going to do it that way, literally the greatest. Now, I was a no good heathen. In 1972, when God came to me and said, hey, 3 o'clock in the morning, drunk, wrecked my car, and God said, hey, your number's up. I'm leaning on back of the car with my hand. I'll never forget it. I looked up to heaven. I said, hey, Lord, I am a sinner. Forgive me of my sin. Come in my heart and save my soul. And he did. I never took another drink or swore another cuss word from them. I was the worst drunk there ever was and the worst cusser there ever was. And thief and everything else. And I have done none of that stuff since. God delivered me from that. It took me one second. In 1972, November 5th, 1 second, I was completely delivered, a complete turnaround. And he established a principle or a position in my life that I was to follow. And that principle is only going to be received by getting into his Word. I got to get in his Word and learn what the principle is that he wants me to have. Using the word maximum is the same popular thing as axiom. If you're doing mathematics, you have an axiom. You have the final thing. This is it. This is where we're going. This is the end. You can't go any further. That's it. You're at the axiom, the end of it. Well, I was at the end of my whole life. I maxed out my heathen life till God couldn't stand it no more, and he said, hey, you ain't going no further. You do, and you're going to end up in hell. And I would have. You know what a proverb is? It's a short sentence drawn from a long experience. Wow. Teaching by Proverbs was an ancient way of teaching. The Greeks taught this way also. And other countries did too. A plain and easy way to teach is simply sentences with great meaning. They were easy to learn and commit and to memory. And they were profitable, a real, very profitable way of teaching. We do that. Mothers do that with their children all the time. Fathers do that with their children. Said, you know what I found out? I was talking with my grandson the other day. I said, hey, grandson, when I was your age, I was doing what I'm doing right now. I was doing some carpenter work. When I was his age, I was learning. He was standing there watching. And that's what I did. When I was his age, I still watched somebody do it. And then I chimed in and started doing it. And so we have to learn. And as we learn, we can find it. We find that there are several authors in the book of Proverbs. Some of the authors one of them was Solomon. The wise, you know when he asked for wisdom, he asked God for worldly wisdom? He didn't ask God for godly wisdom. Had he asked God for godly wisdom, he never would have been the richest man in the world. He would have probably been one of the poorest men, but he'd been the wisest man on earth, godly wise. But instead he asked for worldly wisdom, and he got it. And he didn't use it very well, even though he had it. And but in 1:24 we are told in 1 Kings 4:32 that he wrote 3,000 Proverbs. Solomon wrote 3,000 Proverbs. So we'll probably see the rest of them when we get to heaven. This book is never going to pass away. The streets are going to be paved with gold, and my thinking is the best gold that I know of is the golden book. The Bible, the Word of God is the golden book. Now, I would love to walk on the streets of gold, on the words of the Bible, and just have them all there. I could see them every day. He wrote 3,000 proverbs. He composed over 1,000 songs. And by the way, back in the days of Solomon, the way that the Bible was passed down from Genesis on through was by song. People made up lyrics, and they made the song up that were the actual words of the Bible. And they were the words of the Bible, and they sang them. And they passed them down until writing became a regular thing. See, most of the people in the Old Testament didn't have the Bible. They had pieces of it that were written by somebody just before them or something, but they didn't have much to go on. They had to go on what was said rather than what they read. There are several authors in the book of Proverbs. We saw that. They speak of 3,000 proverbs. We saw that. Solomon had prayed for wisdom. We saw that. Behold, I have done according to thy words. Lo, I have given thee a wise and understanding heart, so that there was none like thee before thee, neither after shall any arise like thee. He was a one-man band. He was one person on earth that did what he did. Did you know that the only other person that ever walked on water other than Jesus was Peter? How did he do that? By faith. He said, if it be the Lord bid me to come to thee. And the Lord said, come. Hey, them other disciples in there, they said, hey, you're crazy, Peter. You're crazy. Peter jumped off the boat right in the water, but he didn't go in. He was on it. And he walked out to Jesus. Oh, everybody throws up at you. But he sank. Yeah, and you and I sink too. When we take our eyes off Jesus, we sink. That's the picture. That's what Jesus was showing us. As long as Peter had his eyes on God, but when he saw the wind boisterous, he saw the world come against him, in other words, he started sinking. You and I, we leave the house in the morning. We got up. We read a little Bible. We said a little prayer. And we hit the road. First thing comes against us is the devil. The end of the driveway, can't get out. There's a school bus. Then there's a car. Then there's somebody walking. Then there's somebody on a bicycle. And you say, well, man, I should have got out of here about 5 minutes ago. Yes, you should have. But the thing about it is adversity is part of living in the world. So you're going to have adversity. And so you need to learn what to do with it. Behold, I have done according to the words. I have given thee wise wisdom. God said, I gave you wise understanding, Solomon. And the men of Hezekiah and Agar and Lemuel are three that wrote Proverbs. And those Proverbs showed Solomon perhaps wasn't quite so wise in some things that he did. And he wasn't. The book tells a story, and it's a picture of young men starting out in life. His first lesson is given in chapter 1 of Proverbs, verse 7. 2 schools bid for him, and both send out their literature. One is a school of wisdom, the other is a school of fools. Which one is he going to take? Well, we're going to see in a minute. This is an outline how it follows. In chapter 1 through 9 is the preface, by way of exhortation to study and practice of wisdom, rules, and caution. By the way, it takes caution to live in this world today. It takes patience and caution to live in this world today. You need to be cautious of everything against those things that would hinder therein. So be cautious. Chapter 10, 24. First volume of Solomon's Proverbs. And then we see 25 through 29, the second volume of his Proverbs. And then we see 30 as Agar's prophecy and Lemuel's prophecy. And those prophecies, by the way, were not good prophecies for Solomon. And so The key word of Proverbs is, of course, wisdom. Wisdom will protect her students. Now let me tell you a little something. Wisdom, perfect wisdom, if you were there to perfect wisdom, you'd be saying, hello, Jesus. He was perfect wisdom. Jesus was perfect wisdom. He lived in a world that did not forget the Father. He lived in a world that he never sinned, never did anything against God. When he was 12 years old, he was in the temple. When he was 12 years old, he was doing his Father's will. When he was 3 years old, he was doing his Father's will. And when he was 33, he was hanging on the cross doing his Father's will. And when he said, it is finished, he rent the veil of the Old Testament law. He rent it from top to bottom, went down through it. Went on his way down to walk through hell and preach to them in hell. He went down, walked through hell, preached to them in hell. Hell couldn't touch him. Fire couldn't touch him. Proverbs 2:8. He keepeth the path of judgment and preserveth the way of saints. Wow. If you're one of his saints, your way is preserved. Walk ye in it and follow it. Wisdom will direct her students. Wisdom will direct her students. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Lean not on thy own understanding. In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy paths. Proverbs 3, 5, and 6. Wow. Look at 4 and 8. Wisdom will perfect her students. Wow. Where do you get wisdom? You get it from God's book. You get it from listening to God's men. I have dozens and dozens, hundreds of tapes, God's men. I have some men on some of these tapes that are like me. They couldn't write their own name. But they've studied the Bible, and they know what God said, and God gave them a wisdom above and beyond somebody with a great learned education who doesn't believe in God. Proverbs 4:18. The path of the just is as a shining light, that shineth more and more in a perfect day. Wow. The chief purpose of the book is to give moral instruction, especially to young people. Moral instruction. The key verse is Proverbs 1 and 4. To give sobriety to the simple, to the young man knowledge and discretion. We have people today, young people today, have no knowledge and no discretion. They can't have discretion because they don't know knowledge, and they don't know what discretion is if you ask them. That's deciding the right thing. Discretion is decide the right thing. This is a meat grinder. If I stick my hand in it, what's going to happen? It's going to grind your hand off. Guaranteed. You don't stick your hand in a meat grinder. It's going to grind your hand off. You say, well, what if it ain't running? Well, that's a stupid thing to stick it in it anyway. Suppose somebody flicked a switch while you had your hand in there. All right. Listen to this. The key thought of the book is the fear of the Lord. Do you know what the fear of the Lord is? Beginning of wisdom. The fear of the Lord, which occurs 14 times in the book. And the subject that is especially discussed and is wisdom. The call of wisdom, the source of wisdom, the presence of wisdom, the principal thing of wisdom, the richest treasure is wisdom, and the feast of wisdom. And all of those could say Jesus. The call of Jesus, the source of Jesus, the preciousness of Jesus, the principal thing of Jesus, the richest treasure of Jesus, and the feast of Jesus. Wow. We see some words that I used to be involved in every single one of these blasphemic words, and that one of them is anger. Anger is the thing today that is ruling our generations today. Our younger generations today are ruled by anger. They get mad in a heartbeat. That's why we hear every morning we get up, if you turn the news on, which you hate to do, there was 9 people killed in the city last night. 8 of them were shot by a gun. 1 of them was stabbed to death. And I don't think they even put on the news anymore somebody's been run over. They're so busy putting it on about all those that were shot and stabbed. One of the next things is the opposite of anger. Benevolence. That means being kind, being right, being nice to that person around you. Helping that person out, being right with them. And then the correction of a child. Do you know the correction of a child is to be done with a paddle? It's to be done with a switch. If you switch your child, he won't do again more than likely what he's been doing that caused him to get switched. And so you need to switch your child. And then we see there are enticers out there. It talks about the woman standing at the street corner. Not the one of wisdom, but the one of destruction, saying to a young man, hey, come on in here. I'll show you a good time, whatever. And we'll make love. We'll do some things. And that is the enticer of the devil. And then you have something in there that's good. Talks about the fear of God. So that when you are walking down the street and that woman says, come in, I'm going to entice you, you say, no thanks. I got God in my heart, and he wouldn't like it if I took him in there with me to do such things. And so think about that. And then there is the thing called fools. The Bible said the fool has said in his heart, no God for me. The fool has said in his heart, no God for me. Wow. Let's be careful. Then you have a good thing. Friendship. Friendship. Pick good friends. Pick friends that have a good rapport. Pick friends that have good morals. Pick good friends. It's not bad to have a good many acquaintances that are not come over yet to the side where you are, that are still following the devil. It's good to have some of those acquaintances so you can help them out of where they are and see what you've been delivered from too. Wow. Indulgence. Wow. Indulgence. What is that? Too much alcohol. Too many cigarettes. I think one's too many cigarettes and one drink's too much alcohol. Indulgence of the things of the world. You know something? You could be an absolute positively TV bug, a couch potato, and be just as bad off as the fools that are drinking, as the fools that are doing other things. Be just as bad off because you aren't any physically good. You're no good to nobody. All you're doing is filling your mind and your heart with a bunch of garbage. And then in the Proverbs we find divine knowledge. Wow. Divine knowledge. We also find the opposite of divine knowledge. You know what that is? That is called oppression. Oppressed people can't hear the words of God as a general rule. They can't hear anything, but they need to hear one time the truth of God and get out of their oppression. Yes. Then we have this awful wicked thing called pride. The Bible said that's one of the things, the pride of life, that will take a man to the grave without being saved because of his pride. Wow. Prudence is the opposite. Prudence is to be prudent. You need to be, do you go to work every day? Do you do what you're supposed to do? Then you're prudent in your work. And that's the way with salvation and following the Lord. You got to be prudent following the Lord. And then we have the scorners. Wow. And the next word is strife, and the scorners bring forth strife. People that scorn about everything. You say, well, so-and-so got saved, and they came over there, and here's the scorner says, yeah, but they ain't going to last a week. Well, that's what they said about me 40 years ago. I'm still saved. Wow. And then we got temperance. That's a good one. Temperance. That's a temper that's rinsed. Temperance. You got your temper put away, and you're not going to bust out every time somebody says something with some kind of flare up. Your temperance. Then there's the thing that the Bible says that nobody can tame. The tongue is set on the fires of hell, is what the Bible said. And who can tame it? If you could tame your tongue, he said you could tame your whole body. So you need to watch that. Unjust gain. I was saying yesterday about a fellow. I know a man who works a man. The man that works the man has probably got $1 million or so. Maybe even has $1 million in his pocket to jingle. And I'm sure that he's got $1 million somewhere in cash, as well as other things. And he works a man and pays him very slight, just enough to get by on, and thinks nothing of it. Wow. Bad scenario. I would hate to die in that man's shoes and face God with having beaten my employer for years and years and years. Wow. And then we have wealth. Wealth can be good and wealth can be bad. Wealth's all right if you use it right. Everything you make, 10% goes to God first. And that's what I do, and I'm not wealthy. But that's why God blesses me. I have no needs. I don't have any needs. Why do I not have any needs? Because I'm following the Lord. And so I don't have needs. I have things that I want sometimes that aren't needs. Sometimes I get them, sometimes I don't. Suretyship. That is taking something from a man, holding it for a bit, and making him pay more for it than you loaned him on it. That's suretyship. Wealth. We have to be careful of wealth. Wealth can cause you to fall away from God. You have to be careful of the evil woman. Watch out for the evil woman. Because the evil woman will carry you, if you're a man, away. And you don't want that to happen. And we were talking not long ago in our church that the television has begun to say to our Christian women, it's all right for you to show some cleavage. It's not all right for you to show cleavage, women. I'm a man. I love my wife. I would not cheat on my wife for nothing under the sun. But my eyes would cheat on me if a woman's walking down the aisle and she's got these two great big lumps right here sticking out. And it's not right. Ladies, you know what a lady is? A lady is somebody who's modest. A real lady is somebody who looks like a lady. She's modest. I better not get on that subject. Because I don't like ladies looking like men. I don't think ladies ought to look like men. But on the other hand, I don't think they ought to run around and show their cleavage either. Got a dress all the way up to their buttocks. And they can't sit down without holding their dress. Listen, I need to get out of there. That's evil women. Then you got good women. Those that dress modest and act modest and don't entice other men. And when they get home at night, it's fine to entice your husband. That's probably one of the best things you could do, woman. Entice your husband. That's a good thing. Now, one of the good things for a man, entice his wife. But leave everybody else alone in that field when it comes to that. Then you got youth. Youth. This is the biggest failure of us grown-ups today, is that we got youth we're not training. We've got youth we don't know how to talk to. We got youth we can't understand. We've got youth we bought them a telephone that they can talk all of the things of the world on anything. They can find anything on it. They can find the most decorative thing on earth. They can punch it up on that telephone in just 2 seconds. And don't think they ain't doing it. Don't think you're not doing it. They, even in the church, send a dirty picture across to the next person. And one of the bad things, it's kind of a good thing that I'm not the preacher. If I was a preacher in the church, I would say, young people, please do me a favor. Put your phones up. Shut them off. Put them in your pocket. Do not take them out until after church. I see them over there. I see the youth over there. One sitting right beside the other one. Do. And then one looks over and smiles at the other one. Because they just said something to them that there was... Did they hear what the preacher said? Absolutely not. Could they understand what the preacher said? Absolutely not. Could they do what the preacher just said for them to do? Absolutely not. Why? Because their mind is somewhere else beside what the preacher's talking about. We need to be able to talk to our youth. Let's get on another subject. Here's another one that talked in Proverbs about. Finances. Finances. Do you have a credit card? Is it maxed out? And if it isn't, don't use it again. Pin it. Take a thumbtack and pin it on the wall and start paying just every penny that you can on it every week until it's paid off. Get in touch with that company that you got that card with and say, look, I'm going to pay you $20 a week for the next 5 years until it's paid off. And you know what will happen though? At $20 a week, the interest will be more than you're paying. So you will never pay it off. So you have to really work on it. If you want to pay a credit card off, you've got to really work on it. You can't just do it by paying a little small amount. You've got to figure out how to do it. You may have to go to a service person that knows how to get all of the cards in one lump, and then you pay one lump. And then perhaps you go and you get a bank loan that the interest is minimum for 5 years to pay off 2 credit cards. And most people today, 5 years of payments at a bank would not pay their credit cards off. That's how deep they're in debt. The average person today, I understand, with 1 or more credit cards is anywhere from $15,000 to $18,000. I see people walk into a clothing store and go up there with a buggy slap full, and the woman ring it up, and it's $540, and the woman don't even blink her eye. She just throws a credit card up there, and the woman slides it. Well, that $540 can become $5,000 if you're not on time. If you're not on time, that money, it don't take it long to double. It doubles in a short time if you're not paying on time. Then we got one of the biggest things that's happening today in this world. One of the, next to the last proverb, is adultery. Adultery. The next to the last proverb is adultery. What is adultery? Adultery is to put your eyes on somebody that's not yours and think sexual thoughts. That is adultery. Jesus said, if you look on a woman to lust after her, you have already committed adultery in your heart. So, men, watch it. Women, you watch it looking at men. And let me tell you another thing. Men, we talked about women dressing to provoke a man to think about her. And there are men that dress to provoke a woman to think about them. So be careful about that. And then you have marriage. The last proverb, marriage. Marriage is honored by God, and the marriage bed is undefiled. Husbands and wives, the marriage bed is yours. Anything outside the marriage bed is not yours. You do not have a right to have anything to do in any time, any way, shape, or form, sexually or over friendly with somebody of another other than you. If you're a male, you don't need to be with another female. If you're a female, you don't need to be with another male. If they're a different gender than you are, you don't have any business fooling them if you're married. Everything you have belongs to your wife, man. Everything woman belongs to your husband. See you next time. Bye-bye.